Alrighty then. So the next one we're looking at is we're moving to working with chakras. Unless you've had them removed. And as an introduction to the chakras, we're looking at the workings of that heaven and earth principle. So in Taoism, they mention the heaven and earth principles where man or mankind is positioned dynamically in between both heaven and earth. Modern physics would describe the Tao as the unified field, the field of information, energy, of which the whole universe is both encompassed and composed. Two physicists have also dealt with the heaven and earth principles. So one physicist called David Bohm, which we're going to look at more in second semester, he came up with a holographic model for the universe. And when we do attitude with essence, we're going to look at his concept of a holographic model, where he says that there's like two orders. You have like the explicate order, which is the manifest, which we see here, and you have the implicate, the hidden order. And he kind of used the analogy of a hologram where you have a holographic plate, and that's like the implicate order. Then you fire the laser beam into the holographic plate, and boom, the three-dimensional hologram pops out of the holographic plate. And so the three-dimensional hologram popping out is like the physical order, or the explicate order, he called it. And then the plate itself, it just holds the encoded information for the hologram, is called the implicate order. And there's a lot of properties about holograms that make them interesting as well in relation to similarities to how the universe might work. And the actual, well, we're actually going to look at how we're going to then adapt the organ system of Chinese medicine into a holographic way of treatment rather than whatever it is now. So we go into a 7-element holographic system, which is pretty awesome. And that was developed by a kinesiologist in America called Richard Up, who passed away some years ago. But he was a real progressive genius with kinesiology, very innovative. Richard Up, U-double-T. And a lot of what he did sort of paved the way in a lot of different areas of modern kinesiology. So David Bohm's one, and then there's another one called William Tiller. He's an American physicist, and he created these two interactive realities. So the physical or manifest, which Bohm called explicate, he called positive space-time, and the implicate, the hidden, he called negative space-time. But Tiller also goes on to describe the physical properties of the different realms. So instead of just saying they exist, he kind of said, these are the kind of physical dimensions of these different realms, which kind of really sparked my imagination when I read them, and really made a lot of things very clear to me through how he explained it. So Tiller proposed that negative space-time offers opposing scenarios where systems order without effort and liberate energy at the same time. This is quite a foreign to us, but it is a vital piece of information. Understanding the importance of the heavenly principle in relation to man. The two orders of negative and positive space-time stabilize each other, interacting in an expanded universal framework. So instead of like just looking at the physical universe operating as the physical universe, it kind of needs the non-physical universe interacting with it to stabilize it and allow it to exist, which is a little bit like what we said with superstring theory, that the theory can only work if there's 10 dimensions. It can't work if there's 4 dimensions. So there's like a hidden dimensional, extensions on this universe that we don't see, that we need in order for this universe to actually function as it does. And it's like, it's like your car drives, but there's another dimension, and you know how to drive the car, but you open the bonnet and there's a whole nother dimension of how this thing actually goes that you may not know about, but it won't work if the engine bay is empty. So this was a picture from Tiller. I've got an original diagram from the book. Good. And this is like his description of the positive and negative space-time. So in the positive space-time, he goes, the realm of physical matter, the physical world, electricity is the primary force. We have electromagnetic fields. There is positive entropy, which is a tendency towards disorder. So that means, as you progress through time, you get old and run down just through the aging process. And then, your car, if you drive around over time, it'll get, it'll wear out, and maybe one day you'll have to trade it in, get a new one. If you leave your house long enough, certain things, your kitchen will start to fall apart, your bathrooms will fall apart, you'll need to renovate it. So you'll need to put energy into the system in order for it to still function the way you want it to. If your bedroom, if you don't actually spend time cleaning it up every now and again, it'll get progressively more messy. So you've got to put energy into the system to create order. Otherwise, it just sort of moves towards disorder. And everything in the universe works that way. And it's interesting because that movement towards disorder has like an energy associated with it. And we can see it with experiments in osmosis. So when you have I want a black pen. I had a black pen.
I think it's on the floor. It's not on the floor.
Here it is. Thank you. So with the osmosis experiment, so you've got like a tube of water here, and you've got like a tube connecting another tube of water here. And then in between here, you put a membrane. And in that membrane, water can pass. So water equals H2O equals solute. Solvent. So there's a solvent, which is water, and there's a membrane. And then you can put a solute into the water, so like sugar or salt. So salt is sodium chloride. So you put the sodium chloride crystals into the water, say on this side. Well, actually, and so just say the water level looks like this. So the water level will be the same because of gravity. It'll the water will pass through here, then to adjust, so because of the gravity pulling down on the water. Now, if I put salt in here, and so this membrane is impermeable to salt, but it's permeable to water. So the water can move across the membrane, but the salt can't. So the water can move across the membrane, but the salt can't. And if I put salt in here and it starts to dissolve into the water, what happens is we have the free moving water, but we have the partitioned salt. And because of the law, the desire for entropy, the water will move out of here into here against the force of gravity. So when salt's in here, so you've got Na minus and Na plus and Cl minus floating around in the water, what will happen is the water will move across into here to try and make the water, the solute more equal to the fact that there's no solute here. So the water will go across here to try and dilute that out, because there's a lot of water here with no salt, and there's water here with salt. It'll try and make this have less salt in it because of that connection with the water. And that's called osmosis. So what will happen is this one will start to go down, and this one will start to go up. So they'll deviate away from the same height, and this one will come up here, maybe, and this one will go down here. And so that's what they call osmotic pressure. So that's a force exerted by that desire for disorder in this dimension. So once this is too regimented, this is all the little salt soldiers over here, and there's no salt soldiers over here. We can't get the salt soldiers across into here, so then we'll move the water across. And if I put the salt in, you know, if I give it some time to dissolve, it'll want to put the molecules equally distributed over all the water mass. And so if I take a little bit of water over here, it'll have the same amount of salt, and so I took a little bit of water over here. So the same desire for randomness wants to diffuse the salt equally around all the water. And then if I want to get this down, I could put a floating platform on and then put little weights on. And when it comes back to equal, and I look at the weights, that weight is the osmotic pressure. So that's the force against gravity that the desire for randomness is exerting. So it's the force against gravity that desire for randomness exerts. So that desire to move into disorder is actually a force within this realm. But in the implicate order, it's reversed. So it actually, things want to move into higher states of order. In this realm, things want to move into high states of disorder. And that's how, you know, we work spiritually. So you know how we were looking at the person plugged in before. So the person's plugged in spiritually into the physical. So there's a connection from the spiritual order into the physical order. And when this is well plugged in, this person's very organized. So the negative entropy, which is the movement towards order, is connecting through interdimensionally to the physical body, which then allows the physical body to self-organize and self-regulate. So when this disconnects, this becomes less organized. And when this fully disconnects, then you're dead. And then what happens to the body then is it just goes into decomposition. So it just decomposes. It lies there and decomposes. So here, when it's fully connected, it's you know, optimally organized because it's connected to that blueprint of that organizing principle. And then when that severs, then this becomes fully disorganized to the point of death. So and then this bit floats off and this bit is shed. So what we're trying to do is we want to bring the organizing principle into physical, and that's a natural phenomenon, and that occurs through the chakras. And so this is high pressure order, this is low pressure order. High pressure order, low pressure order. So then there's a movement of order from a high pressure into a low pressure, just like in a bathtub. So in a bathtub, you have a bathtub, it's full of water. Below it is a pipe that's full of air, it's empty of water. And then when you pull the plug out, because of gravity, the high pressure wants to move into the low pressure. And so then you get like a little vortex forming. So the vortex is just the most efficient way of moving the liquid into the pipe. And then because there's air, you'll find it'll start to suck air down into the pipe. It'll start pushing air through and displacing the air as the water goes down. And so that vortex is how the information and energy organizes itself. So what the chakra is basically the movement of information, energy for the organization of the body, moving from a high pressure ordering to a low pressure ordering where it's actually wanting to disorganize. And so that information pours in through the chakras. Does that make any sense? Yeah. So the chakras are a phenomenon, if you like. Phenomenon. I can never say that properly. They're based on the ordering pressure. So here we go. So the human body is amazingly organized and energy efficient. The spark of life within us keeps the body organized and animated. When this spark leaves, the body falls into disorder and goes into a simple process of decomposition, liberating the energy of the flesh into the surrounding environment. The spark of life is the heavenly element which lives within us, animating the complex processes of life, preventing the simple decay of our body. The extent of our connection with the heavenly principle, negative space-time, determines the relative level of order and disorder we experience. The more organized we are, then the more efficient we use energy. From the perspective of energy medicine, we can improve our health, emotional, and mental well-being by enhancing the flow of information energy between two orders of negative and positive space-time. The more enhanced our connection to the spiritual order, the further away we are from disease and decay. Our capacity to organize and connect with energy does not stop at good health. Potential. So this is sort of like, well, maybe there's more. So spiritual masters frequently show how much high capacity is to self-organize and radiate energy. This can be seen in the form of healing, but also in the form of not eating or drinking for indefinite periods without losing body mass. What this indicates is their connection with negative space-time increases the organizational efficiency to such an extent as their bodies become a kind of perpetual motion machine, because they are capable of drawing all their energy into positive space-time from negative space-time. For these masters, the connection between the two orders is becoming more and more open and complete. Tiller proposes in his model of negative and positive space-time that the astral plane operates as a kind of membrane or transition point between the two orders of negative and positive space-time. So we have like the physical plane, and then the astral plane, and then the causal. And so in his model, he sees the astral plane as like a membrane, and the physical plane is like, so it's coming through like that, and the chakra is like the kind of the doorway, and it's kind of being spun due to the desired movement. So that's interesting, isn't it? So then, it gives us a slightly different way of looking at chakras. So what that represents then is that based on our need for organization, it will create a drawing on the chakra. So it'll just like open itself up because there's a lower pressure in the physical realm that pulls through what it needs from the spiritual realm. And so our chakras are modulating differently based on our demand of what we're doing in the physical world. So chakras are doorways or gateways to the body. They are active bridges between negative and positive space-time, allowing vital energy and information to flow between the two orders. The energy and information received from negative space-time facilitates the hyper-organization and energetic support for life as we know it to exist. The chakra passes through all the subtle bodies into the physical body, relaying information and energy. Not exclusively to the physical body, but to the subtle bodies as well. Each body is fed the required information and energy through the chakra. The needs of the body are met by the instantaneous ability for the chakra to modulate its energy to suit the individual needs in an ever-changing world. When a chakra fails to modulate appropriately to suit our needs, then the chakra can be considered to be blocked or imbalanced. Commonly, the chakra will be too open or too closed to suit a range of particular situations. When this occurs, we are unable to respond appropriately to what is happening in the world around us, creating an experience of stress in our lives. So the stress isn't that the chakra is like not working fully, it just means it's not modulating to our needs. So I used the example before of, a student-teacher dynamic. As the teacher, the yang aspect of my throat chakra is very open, so I'm expressing my communication, and your yin aspect of your throat chakra is very open, you're absorbing information, and that's working well for us. But if I was in the group and I was unable to shut down my throat chakra, then I'd be going blah, 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 while the teacher's talking, then that could be, counterproductive to the end goal. So then my chakra could be seen as stuck in expressing and not able to remodulate to receiving. And so most of our chakra issues are that they're just stuck in a particular structure. And that overlaps what we were talking before about the archetypes, where you're stuck in a certain expressive dynamic under a certain archetypal framework and not able to restructure into another one that actually suits your situation.